to do some petty things in the local government. That is why our local governments are not working the way it should. I think it would be better and good for us to have a proper system. If the local government is given complete autonomy to run the way it should be, now, the process of electing officers, let us remove this political game. Wanting those who are not competent, who are not qualified, those without vision, those who cannot even understand how to run the affairs of the local government to be put in power. Now, this way we run our government here is very funny.
How do we do that? How do we achieve that?
How do we achieve that?
People?
We are going to go through the normal process of selection, election. Now, if we at the local government level allow communities to get involved in the electioneering system of the local government, we are going to get good hands. Let's break it down. Now, the system that should be obtainable in the local government system is that let's have what we call community parties. These community parties that runs in the communities that make up that local government knows the people who are capable. Today, what we have are impositions. People chose who will serve their interests and impose it on the people. Sometimes you see somebody who is not coming from Ido local government coming to be chairman in Ido local government. It's not very bad, but that will not. We work out that we give relief to the pains of the people in that community, like what we have in Ido today and several other places and all that. So these things, we should put them in order and allow the local government to have a full autonomy. The governors should stop this, their evil clique, by saying we can allow. There was a time they went on protest and they said, no. People were calling for the, and all those things. Why are they doing that? Why are they doing that?
So what will be the role of the electoral umpire? Are they not supposed to oversee the electoral process when it comes to the politics of
the state is in charge of the local government elections. But what I am asking for is that the executives of the state, the chief executive of the state, should create a level playing ground for all interested party and candidates. That is what is important for us to do. Let them create a level playing ground. It's not working against the other interest group because of your own party. No, it's not done. It's killing us in this nation. It's killing us. The ruling party will dictate who, even those who are not qualified. I've met with several of them. Of course, you know I'm a politician. I was involved in the last election.
Well, what do you think are some of the fears of some of these governors when it comes to local government affairs?
Their fears.
Why do they want to interfere?
Their fears is this. When they put their people there, if they didn't do well, they will put pinch of salt in the mouth of those of their people they have set in place to work up heavy machinery to suppress the other people that are around to give them back the ticket when it's time. So these are some of the things. That is what is going on. That is what is going on.
Do you agree that it's about politics here?
You see, in fact, these days, it is very tough. You have to be conscious as a journalist to excoriate politics from governance. And in this country, anything that clashes with politics, be it economy, be it security, be it character, politics wins, trounces every single time. How did we get to this point? Mr. Eze tried to.
Fantastic question.
How did we get to this point?
I was going to ask that.
How did Jack come about? Pre-1999, we had a situation where people, landlords, no longer gave their accommodations to teachers for rent. Why? Because they were not being paid salaries and so they couldn't pay their rents. Primary health care, that was how it got destroyed. Those two in particular, primary education, then primary health care, which is at the purview of the local government. What happened? Markets, waste disposal. Because in the course of transition, there was a time we had local government, we had elected local government officials, but we did not have elected people at the state level. And so the people at the local government, they went AWire. And so they were, corruption, taking the money, they were not spending money. So by the time democracy came full force in 1999, all the governors had debts, arrears, salaries, and issues to solve. That was, and we had President Obasanjo, former President Obasanjo, who looked at what could work. The people at the helm of affairs at the local government, their tenures were not yet over, most of them. So the only thing that could be done was to check them. And that brought the Joint Allocation Committee. That's where you have that account, Jack. But you see, one of the challenges we have in this country is that we almost always try to solve a temporary problem using a permanent solution. So even when the problem is no longer there, the solution becomes a problem. That's what we are seeing. Now, the NFIU that was reviewed in 2019 has made it clear that any local government that does not have elected officials at the helm of affairs is not entitled to allocation from the federal government.
Do we begin to monitor, do we begin to ask for monitoring of how funds get to the local governments now? Do we begin to talk about tracking of funds, how it's being used at the local government level, ordinarily?
See, let me tell you, like we said, it's impossible to excoriate politics from governance. So naturally, the man at the helm of affairs is being careful to protect his own people. He wants to also empower his people. They've been out of power for 8 years. And they've been working with him. They've gone through thick and thin with him. Some of them have gone hungry on campaign trails and all that. He wants to compensate them. But a time must come in the life of a people where they say, thus far and no more. If we continue like this, that means we're never going to have a reprieve. It's going to be a vicious cycle. He's going to hand over to somebody, whether after 4 or 8 years. Is he going to continue the same thing? If he is not careful, he is going to fight this legal battle. And if, because this is a tenured office, as we speak, in the eyes of the law, their tenure is ongoing and it is counting. They cannot spend one single extra day. There's a precedence to that. When Alhaji Ladoja was wrongfully impeached for 11 months, and then he was brought back, he went to court to say that the 11 months should be added to it, and the court said no, because in the eyes of the law, that impeachment was null and void. So whether they perform, whether they are in office, whether they are able to exercise their mandate and authority, in the eyes of the law, their tenure is counting. When the 3 years is complete, they will be set aside. Now, tell me, if the legal battle continues till that time, by the time they are ruling on it, it will become an academic exercise, useful to nobody. But that was why, in citing the Amechi Omeya case in 2007, the Supreme Court, in its wisdom, looked at what happened in Imo State, the Ararume PDP case. By the time Supreme Court told PDP that Ararume is the rightful candidate, all they did was to expel him from the party. And they knew they would do that again to Amechi. That was why the Supreme Court pronounced Amechi as governor. The PDP could not do anything. And I was in Rivers State throughout the 8 years of Amechi's administration. He was an outsider in PDP. They never accepted it.
Let's still come back to the issue of Oyo State being a precedent and, of course, a case in terms of this caretaker committee itself. How does the state purge itself of some of these anomalies? Now, this is coming from federal, and the federal is calling to caution many states to actually adhere to the provisions of the Constitution. Many people ask a lot of questions that is Malami the right person to actually call to question these state governors? Some people will say that states have the autonomy to determine what happens within the state level. But Malami, of course, is the custodian of Nigeria's constitution, as the case may be. But from your own perspective, what do we make out of these instructions given from the federal?
I want to look at the issue from this angle. If this is done in honesty to correct it now and to stop it happening in the future, it will be good. You understand what I'm saying? If it is done with the intent that we correct it now and prevent such violation of the Constitution from happening in the future, it's good. But if it is done just because it's happening in the camp of the opposition, it is not good. So, I want to believe that looking at the Constitution, the AGF is correct in his position. But let it not be that it is because most of the states where the opposition parties are ruling may be the one that are vocally involved in this issue. That may be the reason why the letter went out. I don't know, but I'm thinking if that is the reason, he will be wrong. But if it is to correct it now, so that we'll have it not repeat itself again in the future, then it's okay. Meaning that we are now returning to what should be done, the way it should be done, and also to protect the Constitution from being violated by some other governors that may come in and scrap constitutional elected officers.
Arguments have been that why shouldn't a Malami go to court and sue these governors, for instance?
There's a Supreme Court ruling.
Already pending.
Yes.
Some already arguing that why should he write the letter? He should have gone to court to say that they've not been adherent. Do you agree with some of these arguments?
Let her respond.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, that would be an academic exercise. It's an exercise in futility. Although, if it maybe a state can have locals to challenge the NFIU, that's what I expect.
Okay.
Those who think that there are the people in the local governments in their states, the governors who feel the people do not have the capacity to govern, to administer their allocation. Remember that this allocation is coming from the federal purse. It's not coming from the state.
It's not coming from the state.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
So, and both at the states and the local government are under the purview of the federal government. And in fact, when I looked through, I think we have more states under the APC in this violation. Yes.
So when this federal allocation comes from the federal, at a point in time, one begins to wonder, if you look at the amount of money made from the state, it goes into the national treasury itself. And now, in terms of some of these projects have been done. If you look at treasuries, for instance, if you go to Igbeti, for instance, they will tell you that there are some natural resources that are under the purview of the federal government.
All natural resources are under the
you know
federal
what
government.
I mean?
Yes.
So when you have resources and revenue coming, and of course it's going to the federal purse, and from here allocations will be made. At what point do we get a real federating system in the country? When do we get to a point where we adhere to the principle of federal structure? Because somehow some people are already saying that if you look at the Southwest, there's already precedent in terms of breaking away from the norm, saying that there must be a through restructured process in terms of autonomy now, in security-wise. You're already seeing that in the Southwest. At what point do we get to that level where we adhere to the principles of real federating unit, like what happens in the U.S., for instance, where we copied some valuable part of our constitution itself? It's nothing. Is it not possible? Can't we get there?
It will take us a little giant strides to get there. Number one, there are so many things we need to eliminate in the system. Most of the people who you see coming out to talk about how to restructure this country, how to these and get us where we should be in the community of nations, do they really believe in the country called Nigeria? It's a big question. Now, those who are governors, those who are local government chairmen, do they have vision for this country? That is the first thing. How passionate are they to make this country great? Several of them are there to get their own cut from the cake. That is why they are there. And that is why you see, until we make our political system uninteresting, we won't get there.
Who makes that happen?
Who makes that happen? Let us start from the federal. First, we start with looking into the constitution of the country. The constitution of the country is a major problem to us here. Look at the exclusive list. It is written in such a manner to undermine the concurrent list and the residual list.
So you feel that there is an impunity there?
Yes, there is.
By the author. It's not us.
It's
the
not us. No.
But it's not us.
It's not us. By the authors. By those who sit together.
So you are saying that some individuals actually sat to carve the constitution?
No, yes, no. Yes. No, it's not a reflection of our position. It's not a reflection of the general opinion or the position of the people. It is not.
Why do we get to that point? When we have all of, let's go to solutions now. Why do we get to the point of getting things right? Let's come to the issues of checks and balances here, and of course checking each other. I know that there is Association of Local Governments of Nigeria, ALGON. You know, people, you keep wondering what is really their role. They have been lauding this development itself and talking about Malami writing to some of the state governors. But really, solutions, how do we get things right in this country for once?
See, you see, because we cannot correct anomalies with illegalities. Every time we try to do it, we get back to square one. So we get back to a point that was worse than what we were complaining about. Everything we have to do has to be done within this system, trying to poke the system. We're trying to poke the system. That's why we came up with it. The Amotekun is just one in the series of things that are still going to come. And what do I mean? Our senators, our House of Rep. You see, you saw me write it.
Yeah.
You said some salient things about political inclusion. Every time that we need a party, according to our constitution, that must win 2/3 or a minimum of 25% in 2/3 of the states, 2/3 of the local governments, before it can be declared a governor or a president. But what about the councillors? What about the local government administrators? We still want those big parties with those awesome spreads to be the ones to come to the grassroots. No. What you see, do you know how many parties operate in America? But here in Nigeria, we had parties in 2019 election
about 93 of them
that's had 7 governorship candidates, yet they contested for presidency. When the constitution has made it clear that you cannot become president unless you get votes majority in so you must get the overall majority, and you must have 25% votes in 2/3, that is 24 states. But you had presidential candidates whose parties had 3 governorship candidates, 7, 9.
So how do we get it right?
Now, I'm driving something. If we have a zero-party system at the local government level, it encourages local participation, local inclusion. Let those people, let them be active. Let them be let them throw up things. You see, when you grow bottom up, you're not likely to fall. In fact, in public relations, they tell you, we are trained that if you want to kill a bad product, advertise it.
Yeah.
Because a bad product, the people, you know, you are my brother, I won't allow you to fail. I will be managing and patronizing it. But then you go and advertise it, and then demand booms, boom. And then you produce that bad product. They will not come back, and you keep producing. The product will die. That's what we're doing with our politics. We have people we do not know. We have no contact with them. Our senators, our House of Rep members, our House of Assembly members. Do they represent us? This thing, this month now, they are beginning another round of constitutional amendments. Has there been any gathering of our southern legislators? When it is about money, they know how to get their people across the Niger to, you know, support their motions. But when it comes to issues of nation building, like moving security from the exclusive to the concurrent list, it becomes a problem. Why?
It's a problem.
Have they sat down? Then, you know, you first sit down at home and have a position and then push that position. All you need is get 5 members from the north to support you. That's all. You will have a majority. But no. And the reason is simple. Do we know them?
And so there is no popularist approach to all of this development. It's not a popular development.
All these ones that we do and carry placards.
How do we get
does not solve, does it solve any problem?
all.
No.
At all.
But they will hold on to the thing and say, okay, we'll keep quiet. But last, they will do it. The majority at the table will have their way.
So how do we get it right when it comes to local government administration?
All of us.
Do we have headway?
I've said it on this platform before.
Headway? Okay.
All of us. We cannot look. Governance. Government determines that you are born. Determines that you have gone to school. Determines that you are married. Determines even that you die.
Yes.
It is too important to leave to some people. It is my responsibility. It is yours.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
Okay, what are some of the solutions we begin to look at? I know that local government administration has been a very complex issue for a very long time. It didn't start today. It's been on forever. So how do we get it right? A current decimal, and we are not getting out of it. So how do we begin to put the right peg in the right hole itself?
Okay. Number one, we need a mindset orientation on our political class. Nobody is thinking about the country. Majority are thinking about their party. We have to begin to, maybe, I think we should introduce political education in our primary schools and secondary schools. In some quarters, people who stay there don't know they have a role to play in the government. Let's start it. In some quarters, they see themselves as second-class citizens in the country where they belong. Let's start to give them education. You see, political education is going to help us, though it might take some time. But we need to begin to do that now. The present crop of politicians we have, they are steeped. We can't amend them. They are steeped. We can't amend them. I am of the opinion that we begin to build a new breed of men who believe in this country, who have passion for the progress of this country. Let's begin to raise men and women, youths, all over the country.
And are you sure that they won't have any negative influence from what
excuse
they're
me,
having?
I am talking about indoctrination now.
How would that happen?
It takes time. Indoctrination begins from the cradle. Primary, secondary school, like that. We have not been giving hope to these children in secondary schools because some certain people, some class of people have muscled the whole system and arrogated to themselves. And that is why we are having all these things that is going on and going on, running round, that the same family has been leading this country in the past 60
class of
years.
1966.
Yes.
And you
Class
feel
of
it
19.
can change overnight?
It can change overnight.
Okay.
But we need to set a process in place.
Or else we're doomed.
Or else, no hope, even for those that are coming after us. or else no future for those unborn generation. There's a state where I served as an officer, and when they born a child and that child starts school, they will speak in their language, telling the child, whether you are successful academically or not, we own this country. I served in such state.
Okay, let's look at the dangers now as we round up on this particular topic. What are the dangers of not getting it right at the local government level? Are they dangers? Are they implications? What are the implications of that? Because if we look at it, the local government should be like a more or less like an open door for the grassroots to have access to governance, as the case may be. You know, if we do not have that at the local government level, what dangers does it portend for our democracy and, of course, the grassroots kind of development?
Let me make this statement before my sister comes in. Number one, if we don't get it right at the local government level, at the grassroots level, nothing will work in this country. The resources, the products, the produce we are talking about, or that we eat in the townships, is from these remote areas that we have neglected for years. Somebody made a call, I need so farm produce and so. Now, we know where that thing is in abundance, but there is no access road to get it. In fact, I made a mistake when it was raining. I said, please boy, let's go. Let's drive down. We got stuck to one place for 5 hours. The vehicle that was supposed to carry us, we were carrying the vehicle. Now, these are some of the things that we are going to suffer for too long if we don't get it right with the local government. Now, the local governments that have been, because of the misdeeds of some certain people that have operated the local government, has been muscled up and given to the hand of dictatorial governors that we have in state today, have been deprived of so many things. The governors won't do it. They share the money and tell them, use this one, do this, and use this one, put it here. That is what is happening. And we cannot get it right that way. Please.
Okay.
Please,
you want to also look at the dangers?
Yes.
Okay.
We must understand that society evolves from families.
Yeah.
Very correct.
So, the family, the streets, compounds, communities, and then you move into wards, you move into local government, you move into states, you move into... The local government is the nucleus of the nation. If we do not get it right, the nucleus is just a part of the cell. The nucleus is that place where life starts from. All of us, even the political parties, they understand this thing more than the rest of us. That is why you cannot be a presidential candidate or a presidential a chairman, a national chairman, if you are suspended from your ward. All the political parties, including the new ones, we have that in our constitutions. So why? There is something, development, one side, sustainable development requires that the people own development, that they own projects, that they see. Don't we see the Light Up Ibadan that was done by this current administration for some streets, for some of the major streets? Are the lights still working? Why? What happened? People ran into them, and because it is for everybody, it's for nobody. They were not called to question. You want government to come back to fix that when there are so many other things screaming for attention? It's not going to happen. So until we get to the point when we realize that the reason why our democracy is not working and is not likely to work is because we have muzzled life out of local government administration. There is nothing we can do. We cannot have mediocres running local government and then you think you go and bring a superstar to run the state. A state, I think the state with the minimum number is Bayelsa, where they have 8 local governments or so.
Yeah, 8 local governments.
Your state has 33 recognized. We have 32 LCDAs. And we that live here know that the old local government structure, well, people like us in this environment, when you go to Lagelu, if it is for election, they will accept you. But if it is for them to come and do anything, if there is any problem and you go to Lagelu, they will tell you to go to Akinyele. That's what used to happen to us. In fact, where I live, almost an entire, like 5 estates, there is no single polling unit there. Not to talk of that there will be development. So until we make the people to own the projects. When there is a road project, you give road projects to a contractor, and then the contractor will go and bring logs of wood and lay it down and pour quota on it. The people are seeing, but because they don't care. They don't care. The moment the people are able to call, that was what Amechi did in Rivers State. When Amechi gives any contractor a project, he will go to that community. He will announce the name of the father, their compound, their obiri. He will announce it. Hold him. He has 24 months to do that job. If it is not done, don't come to me. Hold him. He's your son. Okay. So when we get to that point, but we will not get to that point until we have had enough.
And so there must be grassroots interaction, very active one. Okay, as we go, as part of our pattern shot itself, I'm sure you're aware that we have our president going to UK, and of course is asking for extradition of some people who are fugitives, who are Nigerians, who allegedly have carted away the natural resources, national resources of this country to UK. What do we make out of the latest demand by President Muhammadu Buhari? Let me start off with Taizi Harrison as we go.
Like my people will say, Eba bata, you'll be held. Meaning, when you shoot and shoot correctly and meet your target, people will head you. But when you bring the meat back to the community, how it is shared becomes a problem. Do you understand? Now, if what he is saying he's going to do in UK is successful, Nigerians will applaud it. But how those things that is recovered, brought back, is being managed is what we'll be watching to see.
So they've not had any precedents yet in terms of management of some of these resources.
Well, we have heard of the billions that was gotten back, but what it is used for, we don't know. I don't know. I have not taken my time to look into that because I'll be creating more problem for myself. So that is why I didn't bother myself trying to look into it. I am looking into what is going to better the lot of those one coming behind me. And that is why I am actively motivating, gathering, training, indoctrinating, and inciting young men, telling them the issue that concerns this nation does not belong to any particular sect of people, does not belong to any class of people, does not belong to any ethnic group. It is our thing. That is what I'm doing now.
So